Okay, I've got a new jeans hem test video for you, and I just ordered the Brother PC 420, and I'm looking for a machine to take on the road with me that can handle some of the heavier sewing. So I'm going to do a test with this, and you adjust the tension on the presser foot here. Give it a little bit more tension. Okay, we're using the Walwack number 80 Levi gold thread. I'll put a link in the description down below for the thread that I'm using. So I went ahead and wound the bobbin with it, and I've got a size 16 Smets denim needle installed. And I've moved my needle over to the left to 0.5. I'm going to use a stitch length of 4. I've got my tension set on about 7 since I'm sewing on the wrong side. I want to make sure that I've got a good looking top stitch on the other side, so I don't want it so tight that it doesn't stand out a little bit. So I'm going to try it on 7. Let's go ahead and go to 7.5. And that's pretty much it. So I've got it all threaded up and ready to go. So let's give it a try here and see how it does. I'm going to start just before the flat felled seam, which is always the toughest seam. I will use the leveling foot once I get up on the side seam here of the hump. And I also am going to pull that hump seam a little bit smaller because it tends to flatten out a little bit. So I'm going to try to keep that pushed in with my tweezers here once I sew it. So, okay, I'm going to start just before it. Get a hold of my threads back here and get a couple of stitches in. Okay, we're starting to go over the hump now. This is the real test. This is the flat felt seam on the inside leg. These are a pair of Levi's 550s. So it's that very thick, tough denim. Now what I have done is I have beat these side seams down with a hammer on concrete. That softens up the seam and gives the home sewing machines a little bit better chance of going through. And so try doing that. Just take a hammer and just beat the daylights out of it, and it'll soften up for you, and you should be able to sew it fairly well. So anyway, let's have a look here and see how this one does. Okay, I'm up on the hump now, so I'm going to raise my foot, get the leveler in, and we're going to go over the hump and see how it does. I do this just one stitch at a time. As you can see it there, how it kind of penetrated and hesitated just a bit. Well, there we are. It went through it. I've heard this machine is very good and powerful, so that's one of the reasons why I ordered it. I need something that I can sew heavy and light things on when I go on the road, because I do a lot of things for clients and sometimes family members, and so I may be hemming jeans, or I may be doing draperies, just a wide range of things, and I can't take my industrial machines on the road, so I need something that's good and hardy and that I can sew heavy all the way down to lightweight material on, you know, including clothing like knits and things. So here we go. Okay, once I get a little ways here, I'm going to check my stitch on the other side and see if I need to adjust my tension before I get too far. And I'm going to tighten it just a tad. It looks pretty good. Let me give it just a little bit more tension. Okay, here we go. And what I've done, I've moved the needle over to the left where I can keep the opening for the thread to come through here on the foot, right on the edge of the seam, and that gives me a good straight stitch. So I just keep my foot lined up there. Go ahead and cut this thread while I'm here. We will come back and sew over it in the end when we come back around. Okay, we're coming up on the next seam. The only thing I'm going to do is try to keep that lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the top here, try to keep it lined up. I've also noticed it's a little bit fatter there, so I'm going to roll that up a little bit. This one I'm not going to level it. This is a much thinner seam, but I am just going to go one stitch at a time, and you don't want to fly over this, because any decent machine will handle that without having to level the foot. But if you're concerned, go ahead and level your foot. Okay, over that seam, let me get everything flattened out here. We're going to kind of keep it just nicely lined up and tight. Look at my stitch, everything still looks good. And again, I'm using a stitch length of 4.0. I want a nice long stitch. And we're coming up on where we started. So let me keep everything pulled nice and tight here. Make sure I meet up right where I started. Go over that a couple of stitches. And then I'm going to back stitch. Three stitches, come forward 2, cut my thread. And let's have a look at our results. Okay. Had to move the camera around, get us a little bit better light so we can look at the end results here. This is where we started and came back and went over and back stitch. So again, this is on the inside leg seam, so it's not going to be seen. And you'll notice a lot of your retail pants do the same thing there. The stitching looks nice. It's nice and even. Try to move it around there where you can see it. And so this is my bottom side, actually, is where I'm getting the stitching from. And that looks good. That allows me to stitch along this edge. And I've got the standard zigzag foot that came with it is what I used. Got the leveler on it, which I used that on the flat felt seam. But I was telling you I was lining it up, and what I was doing is the edge was being lined up with that plastic, inside plastic gap there. So it made it easy just to keep it lined up the whole time, keeping the seam kind of in between there, but mostly lined up with the plastic edge there as I went around. And it gives you a good straight stitch on your quote top stitch side, which is the bottom side when you're using this side. So what that allows you to do is get good and close here on the inside seam, and it keeps this from flapping up. It keeps everything tied down nicely. So anyway, that's it. If you have any other questions about the machine, let me know. I'm going to do some further tests. Again, I just took it out of the box. This is the first test I often do, because if it can't sew some of the heavy stuff, and I know if it will go over this, it will sew curtain draperies with buckram in the top of it. It's actually less dense than this is, believe it or not. So again, this is 12 layers of this thick denim once you double fold it over that flat felt seam there, so it's tough stuff. And as I said, beat it on concrete with a hammer and kind of soften this dense fabric up, and it helps the needle go through it. And you can see how distressed that is from me beating on it. And that's why I knew I didn't need to do anything to level the foot. It's fairly flat after I beat it out. This one's a little tougher. The flat felt seems a little tougher to get completely flat. Straight thread there, get rid of that. But anyway, that's it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be happy to help you out. That's it for now, so take care.